Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into Weekly Roundup here at the XBL, the Cross-Platform Baseball League. My name is Weaver for Prez, and as always, I am joined by one of the co-commissioners of the league, Dwayne. How you doing tonight, Dwayne? We're about halfway done with the season. Yes, there's 7 weeks on the schedule, but a lot of times that 7th week is just for cleanup. So yeah, we're pretty much halfway done. What are you seeing so far?
Man, Weaver, I'm feeling good, and like you said, yeah, we're getting close to halfway. I'm seeing some epic baseball all around the board across all three leagues, really. The amount of parity that we've seen, the amount of splits and sweeps from everybody just participating, scoring runs and upsets, it's really insane to try and keep track of. You really can't keep track of it all at once with all the action we have going on anymore. It's really grown a ton.
Yeah, we've really been saying it since day one that this season, when the season started, and it's still true now, that middle of the table, as far as this league goes, is so much more competitive, I think, than it was last season. You look up and down, that mid-range, just, above the basement and then below the elite guys, and you have to pick someone who's probably going to have to fall out at the end of the season, and it feels impossible. But someone's going to have to do it. It's going to be this last half fight for the playoffs is going to be one to remember, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. This is really the business end of the cross-platform baseball league season. Like, if you've been through it with us before, you know that this weeks 4, 5, and 6, the seeds really start to take shape. In the XBL, we have only 12 playoff spots and 17 players playing right now. So there's going to be some people that miss out. And then the other two leagues, everybody's jostling for seeding position. So this is really where it's going to get tight. This is where the matchups are going to feel even more intense, especially towards that 5th and 6th week, where you've got only so many games to play and you need to win X amount to get where you want to be. It's really doesn't get better than that. It provides some great entertainment.
It does indeed, and we're going to waste no more time here on Weekly Roundup after 3 weeks of play. Let's get into the content for you tonight, and of course, it always starts with the power rankings for all 3 leagues. So last week was the first week we did power rankings for the AA. That theme continues tonight, and it starts with the 9, 8, and 7 spots here in the AA. There's only 9 players in the league. So the 9th place is the last place. That's Reagan's Eagle, the Fighting Irish, Sidboth, the Chill Cats, and then Black and Hogwarts Express sitting there at 4 and 8.
Yeah, not a lot going on here towards the bottom of AA. Sidboth picking up that first win a couple weeks back. He's been really looking to get on his horse, but he's been playing a lot of close games. We definitely want to see some more action out of Reagan towards the end of this AA season, see if he's able to get a W on the board and get his runs going. And Hogwarts moving down a spot. He's had some pretty promising offensive performances in the early season, but as of recently, we've seen Hogwarts take a little bit of a dive with their ability to keep the ball in the park.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on into the mid-table here, 6, 5, and 4. A couple of consistent 500 players at 6 and 6 are the NA Hikers and the Heavy Ballers. And then Cougar, who dropped from the AAA into the AA, has carved out a nice spot for himself there at 4th place. His pitching approach, he's starting to score more now that he's on 75 ego.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, like you said, he's scoring a lot more. Cougar's looking really good in that 4th spot. I think the playoffs are going to be really his time to shine. But we still got some season to play. The AA playoffs are going to start a little bit earlier than the XBL playoffs and the AAA playoffs. So keep your eyes on that as week 4 is the last week set aside besides week 5 for finishing up for the AA. But yeah, at 5 and 6, we've got the Heavy Ballers and the Hikers as well. Like you said, 2 500 teams. They've shown their stuff this season. The Hikers a little bit less offensively astute than the Heavy Ballers, so Tezzy gets the edge there. But I think going forward, those two are going to be something to watch in those playoffs.
And then into the top 3 here in AAA. This is actually where we do have some big movement. Last week, the first time we went over these rankings, it was Goldfinger and the Aeronauts in first place. He trades spots at 1 and 3 there with Burr as the number 1 team. The Reggae Toners, they've been tearing the cover off the ball.
Yeah, it's honestly been unprecedented. Burr starting the season a little bit late, but now that he said he was, had some real life obligations, and now he's ready to go, and his offense is obviously ready to go with him. He's been scoring a ton of runs, and he gets that nice number 1 ranking here in the AA for week number 3.
And those are your AA rankings after 3 weeks of play. So we will move on now to AAA. Here,
sorry about that.
And yeah, no one saw anything there. That's okay. At the bottom here, it's looking. It's not looking exactly how it was the last couple weeks. There's a name that isn't down here. We'll get to that in a sec. But it is Job AJ. It is Blue Panther and Tam Danitz there as the bottom three.
Yeah, the bottom three, like you said, we've got the one name moving up, causing these three to really move down a little bit. We've seen some good offensive production out of the Vrooms, just unfortunate in the 3-13 record that hasn't resulted in more wins for them. Justice and Blue Panther have really been on his horse this season, just completing a ton of games. I think he's really looking to improve and maybe change that team build coming next season to be a bit more favorable. And Job, we're looking to see more action out of Job for sure. But either way, he hasn't really found that offense that we know and love, that eye and that ability to not really strike out so far hasn't really translated to many wins.
Yep, and then as we move on up, we'll have a couple of improvers here. One spot for the Sicilians, and then the Wolfie Lions taking that sweep there on Match of the Week. That earns a demotion, but they did split with this list's one of this list's biggest improvers, and that's Oxbox and the Holograms taking a game off of Captain Krill, who, if you weren't familiar with who that is, you will see him very high up on this same list.
Yeah, indeed. The Holograms really picked up some crucial wins this week, some big splits, and he really shout out to him for improving so much on the offensive side of the ball. His ability to score runs has really almost skyrocketed. We've seen a very big improvement from the 2-1, 1-0, games that he had to start off the season. So nice job for Ox, and we'll be looking at those Holograms going into the playoffs. Wolfie getting a little bump, probably due to a tough week as far as Match of the Week goes and things like that. But mostly due to that hologram jump, I feel like, causing Wolfie to drop. And then, like you said, the Sicilians looking good, moving up a spot. I think Casino is really starting to make a bit of a comeback. I think North Jersey's on the upswing, and that's something to take a lot of interest in.
Yeah, I agree with that. He actually today is week 4, so nothing that happened today is reflected on these lists. But Casino did split with Eduardo today, so that's something that we could definitely see reflected next week, as Eduardo is considerably higher ranked. Indeed. And we'll move on. Yeah, we'll move on up the list here. The battle tapes stay put even after that impressive showing that she was putting on last night on the Match of the Week. But as you and I were kind of talking about before we went live, it's really not her fault that she doesn't move here. The top 10, top 11 is just so good.
Yeah, it's honestly the top half of this AAA, and it's spilling, like you said, into the bottom half towards the top 11, 12, is so jam-packed with talent this season. It's unbelievable. It's far and away more close as far as parity goes than last season, and we're seeing it as we go through this top 10. It's really hard to jostle for position in here. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day in this league, and in this AAA right now, it feels like that is literally on the table every single game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is the cusp of that top 10, so we'll move up further along past No Name, who had that 2-spot demotion. And it's a couple 1-spot demotions for the Auditors, for the Narwhals, and you can see El Yeezus and his Atlantics there in the middle. This is kind of where we're getting into those lethal offenses, even though they're not quite at the level of the top tier, which we'll see here in a sec. But these guys can all hit hard.
Yeah, especially the Atlantics, very high up on that home run total leaderboard this season. So keep an eye on Unholy Yeezus and the Atlantics, as he looks to really, I think, be poised for a jump off with that power. But players like Phil, players like Phillies Rock, keep games close, and Phillies has a really explosive offense that comes out at times too. So guys in this 7, 8, 9 range could easily be pushing that 4, 5, 6 come a week or two from now.
Absolutely, and moving on to 6, 5, and 4. It's a bit of a rough week there for the Sirloins for Eduardo, so he gets demoted. That's also a bit in part to a rise that we'll go over here in a second. And then the Tac Peas, who are currently leading the AAA in home runs, they sit at 5. Moon Kingdom, also one of the absolute best offenses for certain categories, is at 4.
Yeah, the players here at 4, 5, and 6 are as good as they come in this AAA for sure, and they're only at 4, 5, and 6 due to the talents of the guys above them. And like you said, a little bit of a rough week for Eduardo. We're looking for him to get on that pitching trend that we know he can get on. He's the master of the top outside corner with the curveball, and I think he's going to bring that to the XBL come playoff time. And the powerful offenses of Moon Kingdom and the TAC Ps, I wouldn't be surprised if they catch a few more wins and are soaring up this board come the next couple weeks as well.
Absolutely. And above those 14-3 Moon Kingdom, oh, and possibly next week we'll see a different logo there. If you saw that new logo that Pizza Volcano has, you were probably impressed like I was. So a couple demotions for Rainy and for Krill, but that's because the Corruptions and the Podteka Prowlers have reclaimed first place after being a bit penalized in the voting because of lack of minimums. Corruption's back on top, and in my opinion, where he belongs. He's just so good at the plate.
Yeah, you knew after he saw that number 7, he was going to come out storming to some victories this week and get right back where he needed to be. And I was glad to see it. As we said, that was a bit of a gaffe with the voting last week that got him into that 7th position. But either way, the power rankings don't matter, and he showed it. He just wants to come out here and win ball games, and that is what matters in this league. Coming out and getting your job done and scoring a ton of runs, and the Prowlers have been doing that. But that's not to discredit Rainy or Team USA. I mean, both these teams receiving 1 and 2 votes as well in the ranking votings, and Rainy has had an absolutely stellar season. His pitching first approach has really put him above the pack, and Krill with his offense is just as dangerous as the Prowlers. We saw it on that match of the week in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, just up and down this list, there's so many potential promising playoff previews. Like there's just so many combinations I would love to see, and that's so. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on those. We'll see how the seeding shakes up going on into the last part of the season. Remember, in the AAA and the AA, everybody makes the playoffs, so seeding is what's critical. But now for the XBL, where only the top 12 make it into the playoffs. We've got the Cardiac Card sinking from 15 to 17, so he's in last. J Boops and his Colts and B Hagen and his Megafauna each earn a promotion because of that Cardinals sink.
Yeah, not too much doing down here. Just the Cardinals having a bit of a rough go of it, pushing him down the leaderboard, giving those fellows at 15 and 16 a bit of a push. Boops picked up a few wins this week, I believe 3 to his record, so nice job by the Colts. They're not done yet, and I don't think we've seen the last of the Megafauna either after he played a very close game with Lazy yesterday.
Yeah, close game with Lazy yesterday, and if memory serves, he also played a pretty close game with Light Snack, who obviously we'll see both those guys later up on the list. So yeah, I think that 3 and 13 for the Megafauna is a bit deceptive. We'll see how the last half of his season shakes out. And we'll move on up here past B Hagen. No change for the Firebirds nor the Sakuras. Doso last night on Match of the Week played a pretty competitive set. He played Mike tough. Mike, that's something Mike admitted himself. And then a 4-spot demotion, a bit of a rough week for Alec and the Greats, but still in position to make the playoffs in a season after he did not.
Yeah, I think Alec has had a bit of a rough go last week after coming out really strong to start the season. So look to him to probably shoot up a few more spots and kind of find a bit of an ebb and flow to his record. He had a rough go of it this week with a few tough losses, a split with Boops, I think, under his belt. And then, yeah, like you said, the pitching first approaches of Doso and Mers really keep them where they are. They've been able to nip the games where they need to, and it's been impressive to watch.
Absolutely. Moving on up towards the top 10. A rough week for Ted Danson and his Dragoons. This, I believe, is the biggest demotion on the list, taking sweeps at the hands of Finite Provision and Government, probably our 2 finest Xbox players at the moment. And then a 3-in-1 week for my Beavers helps me up a little bit. I just noticed now I'm tied in 9th place with No Hummus and his Stags, who is 500. He moves up 3 spots.
Yeah, like you said, you two tied there. I think you both have had pretty successful seasons so far. Your strength of schedule, honestly, beyond most others, is with as tenaciously as you went after the top 3, 4, 5 guys to start off the season. So nice trend for the Beavers, a 3-in-1 week, like you said. Things are looking up for you. I think the Dragoons had a bit of a cold week. I'm definitely looking to Ted to start to heat up and find that offense again. It's just a bit of, finding that timing, finding that placement, and yeah. Hummus is ready to jump. I think he's ready for, after finishing last season, perhaps just shooting right into the playoffs. I'm eager to see what the Stags can do with the rest of this season, how many wins they can really gather, because the ceiling is high.
Yeah, it really is going to be presuming that some of these guys who didn't make playoffs last season can find their way in this year. That just makes it all the more interesting to see some playoff matchups that just have never happened before. Because if anyone didn't know, anyone who's watching this didn't know, last season was the first season where we went cross-platform here in this league, meaning the competition was just so different than it ever had been. So many more matchups, so many more new matchups. So we'll move on up the list here, past the Stags, into the 8th spot, which is you, Dwayne, holding pat there. A 3-spot promotion for the miners and a 1-spot promotion for Bice, for government. It's been a good week or it was a good week for all of these guys.
Yeah, seriously, I was really impressed with the weeks we saw out of Finite and Government. Big wins for both of them. Government with the sweep over Ted, Miners with the sweep over Ted as well. Finite held Light Snack very close last week, and then Bice played a very tight split with Mers, where Mers was able to come up with a win. So, not too bad from those guys. They're really representing Xbox well, and their offenses have gone to show it. It's a big improvement after last season.
Yeah, it really is. It'll be exciting to see how the rest of their seasons shake out, as they have looked pretty darn good. We'll move on into the top 5. And it's a 1-spot demotion for the Mallards, mostly because of the just the red hot play of Mike the Cooch, who sits at a fat 13-3 following that match of the week performance where he swept Doso. You love to see Mike get hot, as you know, as we've said, as he will say, he gets hot, he gets cold, but man, when he is hot, it is a show.
Yeah, indeed, and the Cooch Potatoes really put on a show for us last night and all week last week. His offense has really come alive, and that streakiness, I think, has been put to bed, at least for now, and it's going to carry him very far this season. I think a semifinal position is in his sights, something he missed out on last season.
Yep, and then into the top 3, no changes, as many could probably predict, but we were kind of joking before we went on. We actually have something to say about Lazy and Ash now. They played each other this last week. Lazy kind of repeating his World Series performance in that first game where he mercied Ashnod. It only took, I think, 5 or 6 innings. I don't quite remember. But, man, that second game was an instant classic. It went extra innings. Lazy just eking it out. But honestly, it could have gone either way. It's just these two, whenever they play, it's must-watch XBL action.
Indeed, that he was as close as anyone was going to come, at least thus far, to taking a game off Lazy. Ashnod almost able to pull it off. So really exciting, like you said, an instant classic. And I think going forward, it's going to be all eyes on number 1 to see who can take a game off of Lazy. He's got 16 more games to play, and any given day, someone can take one off him. So I'm eager to see it. I'm sure the rest of the league is as well. And at 2 and 3, we have, just as stellar of offenses as Lazy's. They just are not lazy. So what can you say?
Yeah. If you look at the perhaps the website, the XBL website stat page, or the Wishbone rules created spreadsheet, you look at offensive categories. The top 3 here is what you're going to see there. So offense definitely reflected in the standings and in the power rankings. So those are the power rankings for all 3 leagues after 3 weeks of play. We'll have new lists for you next week. And to close us out here, as always, we're going to do the top 5 plays of the week. And coming in at number 5 is a home run off the bat of a pinch hitter here for the Salt Lake Sakuras. Mers drone in control down to his final out in the bottom of the 14th against I believe the number 6 ranked Bice Republic of Africa. Ties the game with a shot. And you were telling me you noticed 99 power, right?
Yeah, 99 power shot from the pinch hitter. He takes a pitch. Mers says, no, we're going with a pinch hitter. Takes the 10th guy out. And he ties the game here. It's amazing to see in such a late inning against a player like Bice, who is far and away someone that's considered a top 10 player. Mers just scrapping for wins, trying to show everybody the Sakuras mean business and possibly could be jostling for a playoff spot come the end. Just really good job by him to clutch it out.
Yeah, I think a bit of a technical glitch trying to get the play to replay here, at least on my end.
Issue. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. But you can always you can go check that clip out in the highlight reel if you wanted to see the replay of it. But yeah, it was a titanic blast. He ended up winning that game too, a few innings later, so it was massive. And so we'll move on to play number 4 here, which comes from the number 1 ranked AAA player, Corruptions. It's not an offensive highlight; it is a nasty defensive catch with the shortstop.
Yeah, over the shoulder, coming back into shallow left field. He's got a good amount of speed on that player. and he had to time that dive perfectly. It looks like he kind of snatches it out of the air, and I was just really impressed with the trajectory on this dive and catch.
Yeah, those are beautiful. It's one of those things you really got a small window to time, and when you do, it's just it's perfect. So we'll move on. We've got a couple plays now from one game, and it's from the game in which Oxbox took a victory off of Captain Krill, one of the most impressive upsets across any league this season. This one is a diving catch in center field and a nice, strong throw for the double play.
Yeah, nice job there by John Dad out in center, getting it done. Like you said, he gets a really strong dive going to his left. It had to be perfect, and the throw is just nails, 100 miles an hour, like to first base. Just Krill absolutely hung out to dry.
And that was when the game was scoreless, but our next play came much later. You can see in the 5th inning here, I believe. Bases loaded for Krill, a chance for him to get back in this game, but Oxbox says no, same player.
Yep, going to his right this time. John Dowd using that good speed, making a great, well-timed dive. A little bit of a freak out there on the highlight. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with the highlights here. But yeah, either way, an amazing dive by Ox to get that done. It could have been a tie game easily if that finds a gap. That's 3 runs. And just
good speed on all the
saves
bases.
the game for him, I think.
Yeah, it really did, because I believe I'd have to look, but I think the final score was very close to what it is in this clip. So yeah, that clip, or that dive, just coming in so clutch. And that's going to lead us to the number 1 play of the week. This comes from Wishbone Rules, and he's leading by 5 versus the No Names. He makes a picture-perfect dive in the deepest part of Red Rock Ballpark.
Wow, indeed. Your right fielder usually don't put a ton of speed on him, so this guy a little slower than the center fielder. He's getting over there. He's got a ton of range, and he slides like 5 feet on his chest to get that inning-ending grab. What an amazing play by Wishbone. You have to just get fired up after seeing something like that, especially in that corner.
I absolutely love those types of catches where you dive like a whole 2 seconds before the ball hits the ground, and you just land perfectly where you need to. It's really aesthetically pleasing, and you and I felt it was deserving of the number 1 play of the games, or play of the week. So congratulations to Wishbone. And that about does it for us here on the weekly Roundup Week 3 edition. We'll have a new show for you in 1 week's time next Monday night. And before that, on next Sunday night, we'll have more broadcasts for you for Match of the Week, both for AAA and for XBL. I've been Weaver for Prez, and Dwayne, why don't you take us out?
Yeah, it's been a great pleasure to give you guys another weekly Roundup. I hope you all enjoyed the power rankings and the plays of the week. Weaver, thank you for joining me again and going over the plays and the rankings. Thank you to everyone who participates in all the games that provide us with these great plays. Thank you to Mickey for making our trailer. Thank you to Urban Legend for doing voiceovers on Match of the Week. Thank you to everybody who does everything they do for this league, B. Hagen and Wishbone with their spreadsheets and everything. We love to cover all the bases, and we love having you all here to enjoy this with us. So have a great and pleasant evening. We'll see you guys on the flip side next week. And take it easy.
Have a good night, everyone.